Hi, I'm Dawson Duke,
I'm Kayla Bullock.
and this is Horror Hideout. We're going to be covering everything horror, including books, video games, movies, and comics.
Welcome to episode 5. I'm really excited today because we get to do our first
Yes.
novel.
And I can't believe we're already on episode 5.
That's awesome. So I am a big horror reader and I love indie horror books. So if you are an indie horror fan like me, check out Books of Horror on Facebook. Readers and writers both for horror on there. But today we're going to be doing A Hatred of Mondays by Brian Keith McDonald. And his first novel is called Gummies, and I read it as well. And there will be a couple of little tidbits from Gummies in our video today, but definitely recommend that you check out both of his books.
Okay, so we'll start with a spoiler-free.
Okay. So this is one of my favorite parts of the book, and it's just on the back cover. Lock your doors, bolt the windows, and hide your lasagna.
So it's a parody of Garfield. It's a horror parody.
Yes.
It's about, we can say.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too in depth into
Right.
it.
A lot of old comic characters come into play in the story.
Yes.
And it's just an all-around fun book. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of brutal. There's some pretty...
And it's kind of sexual in some parts.
Yeah, but it's all around. It's a good book. I loved it. It's a fun read.
Yeah, and it's a quick read. It's less than 200 pages.
Yep. So, all right. If you haven't read it yet, go read it and come back and see us.
Please, because this author is underrated and needs as much support as he can get.
Yes, he does. So, and we actually, toward the end, I did an interview with Brian, and I have some insight into the way he writes and some things to share about the author. So we'll get into that at the end of the podcast. So again, here we go, diving deep into the story. If you haven't read it, pause the video, go read it, come back and see us.
Yeah.
So,
one thing I did want to say is, if you have not read this book, and this sounds interesting to you at all once we start talking about it, go read the book, because we just hit some of the major points, and there's plenty of extra detail, and plenty of parts that we skip over because we're just trying to do a quick overview. So if this interests you at all, whether it's before the video or after you watch the whole video, go listen or go read the whole book.
one of my favorite parts about this book is that some of the chapters are from the cat's point of view.
Oh, I do want to say one thing before we officially start. There are some sensitive topics in this book. I'm going to have a trigger warning thing in the description, so go check that to make sure we don't want to trigger anyone.
Right, okay. But I love that some of the chapters are from the cat's point of view.
Yes.
I think that's fun. And so the book starts out and we meet, what is his name? Is it Snuggles?
Yes.
We meet Snuggles, and he has actually convinced his owner to end her own life.
Yes. Like subtly mind manipulated her, because he kind of has some kind of psychic ability to influence people.
Right. And so he talks about this later on, he finds the loner in town that really has nobody that needs him, doesn't have friends, and can devote all of their time to the cat.
And their money. It's not at this point, but a later part in the movie, in the book, he talks about how he prefers a certain brand of cat litter, and he would rather get that cat litter than his owner get food if it's necessary.
Right.
Like, he'd rather his owner starve than him not get the cat litter he wants.
He's picky about cat food. And,
and if you have a cat, you know cats act very entitled and will flip their dish if you give them the wrong food and stuff. So it.
And I think it's funny because when I was doing some research, there's a Garfield, one of the Garfield quotes, I don't know if you'd call it a quote, but like one of the taglines for Garfield is, love me, feed me, never leave me. And that is Fillmore to a T.
Yes.
In this book.
Snuggles becomes Fillmore.
Yes. So, Snuggles leaves his owner, kind of uses...
Did we say she killed herself?
I said she ended her own life.
Okay.
So he leaves her house and he's looking for someone new to go.
Yes.
Kind of, I don't know, control, I guess.
Yeah.
He
likes causing pain, and he enjoyed making her get to the point where she did that. And he wants
But
to do it to someone else.
right, and he said it was after she had worn out her use, like
Yeah.
after he was done with her.
And he talks about how he considers eating her body, but he wants to leave her with some dignity because he pities her.
Right.
Because she was a loner.
Right, and there's one point in the story, because she's a bigger woman, he talks about how a heavyweight cat is to be revered and respected,
Yeah.
and it's just pathetic when a human's
Yeah.
overweight. There's one part I wanted to talk about too, but I gotta find it. I should have made better notes. So there's a part in the book so like we said, some of the chapters are from Fillmore's point of view. And there's one in chapter 26 where we go back through his past lives. And so for some reason, this cat, maybe it's his 9 lives, I guess?
I don't know. I mean, I get the impression he's some kind of demon or malevolent something.
Maybe.
Because he's got those powers.
Yeah.
And I don't, from what we read in the book, I don't feel like every animal in this world is like that. I think he's something.
That's true, yeah.
Something supernatural.
Yeah. So, he says in 1923 he's a horse, and he bucks off his rider. He spent the rest of his days in a wheelchair until he slit his own wrists. 1937 he's a circus ape. He kills a clown in front of the crowd. In 1955 he kills a mailman as a Great Dane. And then there's a break, and in 1987 he's a hog, and a child falls in the pen, and he eats the child. So, I mean, he's just not a very good pet. I mean, all around, he's not a good pet. So anyway, he's kind of wandering around through town, and he ends up landing on Todd, and we meet Stevie, who is a young boy, 9 or 10 years old. And it cracks me up with Stevie, because he talks about how he doesn't have any friends. He's got a friend that's a girl that likes to pull the football away from him when he goes to kick the ball, and he has one friend that smells worse than he does,
and one friend that carries a blanket, and one kid that's a genius at piano.
Yeah. And he wears a yellow shirt with a black stripe.
Yeah. And
his parents cut his hair except for one curl to keep the lice away. And so basically, it's Charlie Brown.
Yeah.
His name's Stevie, but he's Charlie Brown. And so he comes into play later in the story. We also meet Marjorie. I'll let you talk about Marjorie.
I mean, she's just the most stereotypical Christian MAGA supporter you could ever think of. She's got the mentality that anyone that's in this country that isn't white is illegal. Just not a good woman at all. And it's funny because she's one of those characters that says things, but she doesn't actually follow what she says. Like, she talks about how, like, God put us on Earth for a reason and stuff, but then every time she sees Fillmore, all she thinks about is killing him because she hates animals and cats. Cats are the devil's creatures, like.
Right, and she talks about her vision of hell and what hell would look like, and it's basically everybody's on a stake, and there's spiders yelling at you for not believing in Jesus, and there's one part, and I can't remember what all she lists, but she says something about heaven isn't for, I don't know what all she lists, but I know she put Catholics in there, like just random things that heaven is not for according to her.
It reminds me of in South Park where heaven is only for Mormons.
I haven't seen South Park, so.
Everyone goes to hell except Mormons.
Oh, well. Oh, here we go. Hindus, animals, Catholics, and college professors need not apply.
Yeah.
So, I mean, she's just very stuck in her ways.
And I think in the book it says she's 70 years old or over 70.
I think so.
And she doesn't have a husband, but she knows God will send one for her at some point.
If he sees fit.
Yeah.
There's still time. So we meet Marjorie. We meet Stevie. We meet Todd, and Todd is our main character.
Yes.
Todd is the one who eventually adopts Snuggles and names him Fillmore.
Yeah.
Todd's kind of a loserly guy. He works as a data entry clerk at a company.
And he loves it.
Yes, he loves it. But there was one part that I thought was really funny because he said he would he was hoping he would eventually get a promotion and that would be something to call and tell his mom about.
Yeah.
But not everybody could be a manager at a taco hut like his older brother.
Yeah.
Um, and so I just think that's funny. I mean, you
And
got Taco Hut and data entry,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Well, I'm not as good as my brother."
And he
but
mentions having a hyperfixation when he was a kid, so he probably has something like autism or Asperger's or something
right,
like that.
right.
Because we see later too that he's not great at social cues,
Right.
and I can relate to that a lot.
And he's very like he eats this a plain ham and cheese
Yes.
sandwich. He eats tuna. He
Yeah.
eats nothing like.
And tuna is his like special treat.
Well, and the one time he goes to the store, he gets salted rice cakes, and he says something about sometimes you have to live
Yeah.
a little. I mean, they're salted rice cakes.
I do want to talk about. Do we want to talk about how Todd named him? Like what he goes through?
Yeah.
Okay. So on page 25 of the book, when Todd's trying to think of a name, he goes through some, and so he says, or he's thinking this in his head. Heathcliff. No, that was dumb. Why would anyone name a character after a character in Wuthering Heights? This cat was not Heathcliff. Copper? Ginger? No, those were too on the nose. Squires? No, naming his pet after his favorite bowler was a little off-center. What about Fillmore? Todd wasn't particularly political, nor was he a fan of U.S. history, but for some reason the last name of the 13th President of the United States had creeped into his mind. Something about it seemed perfect. He sort of looked like a Fillmore. So he names him Fillmore. And the Heathcliff reference is obviously to the Heathcliff comics with the orange cat. And it's never been confirmed, but a lot of people think that Heathcliff was named after the character from Wuthering Heights. And then a lot of people think that Garfield was named after the 20th president, James Garfield. But he was actually named after Jim Davis, the creator of Garfield's grandpa or uncle, I think grandpa, who was also named James Garfield Davis, but we don't know if he was actually named after the president or he was just named that. So, but what he mentioned about Squires, he has a few interests in the book. Todd does, but they're kind of niche things that not a lot of people are into. So, like one of them is bowling.
And he's a member of the Polka of the Month CD Club.
Yes, and he has a. And whenever Marjorie talks about him for a little bit, she talks about how people that listen to polka aren't going to heaven.
Right.
And another thing about like her being supposedly being Christian, but also being like an anti-Christian. Christians are supposed to spread the message of God and like Jesus and stuff, but whenever she's thinking about that, she's like, I only share the message with people that deserve to be in heaven.
Right. Which we are not to judge and decide who gets to go to heaven and who doesn't. I mean, she is very extreme on the religious spectrum, like very, very out there.
And one point she talks about how her friend was telling her that Hollywood is trafficking children and stuff, and so it's like she's one of those people that goes on Facebook and believes everything she sees.
And the only movies she'll watch are the like good Christian wholesome, like one of them.
And she calls Hollywood Holly Weird.
Yeah, and one episode she's watching is about a little boy who steals an extra cookie before dinner and
gets in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, just I don't know.
And one of them is
extreme.
It's either God's Not Dead or a parody of God's Not Dead, like an in-universe version of God's Not Dead.
Yeah.
And the one more thing about the bowling thing, Todd has a signed bowling pin that was signed by Squires,
right?
His favorite bowler,
right? And he, when he's at home, that's what he watches. He watches the 1980 blah 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 bowling tournament.
He's got it recorded, and he watches it, and even though it's nothing new, he enjoys it still.
Right. Which I mean, we all have. I mean, how many times have I watched Saved by the Bell, and I can still quote it word for word, but I still sit down and watch it.
Well, and I watch Invader Zim all the time, or whatever.
So, So Todd ends up going home and after work, and Fillmore is on his porch.
Yes.
And he feeds him outside. He doesn't invite him in, but so chapter 7 is from Fillmore's point of view, and he says, "I picked someone who needed me more than I needed them. A loser like Catherine," which was his first owner, or the owner at the beginning of the book. "Someone who'd devote their life to me, someone who'd take care of me." So he's very selfish and like he's looking out for himself and
Yeah.
doesn't want a family. He just wants one person who will be devoted to him.
Yeah. It does feel very much like if you actually have a cat, how entitled they can act.
Yeah, yes.
Obviously taken to the extreme. Also, I do think, I know this was earlier when you mentioned it, but I do think that the thing you said about maybe it being his 9 lives, that would be a cool thing if we get a sequel.
Yeah. So we talked about he finally invites him in and he names him. So then we meet Henry, and Henry's just kind of a. I don't really know if he comes into play all that much.
Is he the.
He's the unofficial, like, neighborhood watch.
Yeah, he drives around on his golf cart.
Yeah. But, like, I think a lot of this is just kind of, like, character references for Todd, because he talks about how Todd's just a little odd, and then he mentions that he saw Todd take the cat in the house.
Yeah. Is Henry one of the people that gets invited over later in the story? I don't think he is.
I don't think so, but I think he's at the end. I think he comes into play later on.
When he dies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's the one that washes the guts down the drain.
No, I thought he died.
Oh, does he die?
He's the one that. He's the one with the Flintstone thing, isn't he?
Oh, is it? Is that the same guy?
I'm pretty sure. Let me see.
Oh no, that was Gary Pointer that washed him down the.
Yeah, Henry is the Christmas guy.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, we'll get back to Henry then. I guess he does come into play.
Did I say Christmas?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's because I was reading the page that I turned to. He's the Flintstones guy.
I didn't realize that copy had marks in it.
Yeah, this is the early. It's just.
That's funny. So, the copy that we have 2 copies of the book, and the first copy is an unedited ARC copy that I got, and so there's some notes in there from the author, which is kind of cool.
Just some notes on some errors.
Yeah. So Todd doesn't really have any friends at work, and he's excited because there's a new lady starting, and her name is Abby. And so we meet Abby. She's kind of, my impression is she's kind of the complete opposite of Todd. She's outgoing. She likes to dress more goth than anything. He talks later on about the Spice Girls CD that she listens to. She eats spicy food.
Yeah.
Just kind of the opposite of Todd. But they pretty quickly develop a relationship.
Yeah, what kind of sets it off is he talks to her at first when she's reading a book in the break room, a horror book. And they talk a little bit, and it's kind of awkward, and then Todd is, like, kind of beating himself up about it in his head. And then a couple days later, he comes up to her, and she's cursing at the vending machine because it didn't drop her honey bun. So he says, oh, I was about to get a honey bun, too. And so he uses his last dollar to pull it out, and that's not actually what he was over there for. He doesn't like honey buns.
Yeah.
But he gets hers out, and so... And then after that is when the thing happens with Marjorie.
Yes.
So Fillmore, there's been a few times where Fillmore has had interactions with Marjorie. There was the first time where he was just on the porch and she saw him, and we saw from her point of view like what she was thinking about and how much she doesn't like him. And then the second time he was like singing on a fence, like yowling like a cat, because he is one, on a fence next to her house, and she threw a rock at him.
And you can tell he's doing it just to be annoying.
Yeah.
Like the way he talks about it, like he's just doing it just to be annoying.
Because he literally says, not caring if I wake anyone up or disturb anyone's sleep.
Right. I want to back up for just a minute because you were talking about her reading a book. And so we see a chapter where she's at home getting ready for her first book, or her first day at work. And I thought this was so funny because her current book is called I Found a Hell Goblin in My Pussy. And she decides that's too risky to take to work. She doesn't want people to see her reading that in public. So she takes something a little bit less, I don't know what the word is, but a better cover, title than that for work. But I thought that was funny. There you go. I thought that was funny. So there's a part in here where he talks about, we're back to Fillmore, And he says, people hate Mondays because they return to work. Cats hate Mondays because there's no one there to worship him, to wait on them hand and foot.
Yeah, because I do think it's funny because one of Garfield's big things is he hates Mondays, and it's like, well, what does he care? He's a cat.
Right, but that right there is exactly why. There's nobody there to take care of
people.
So we talked about that they start to become that Abby and Todd start to become friends.
Yes. And it was mentioned earlier in the book when Marjorie was home that she has a window that has no screen on it, and she leaves it open whenever the weather is nice, even though she knows it's probably not a good idea because it lets bugs in.
But God's going to keep her safe.
Yes. Clint Eastwood will come in and save her if an intruder breaks in.
Was it Clint Eastwood? I thought it was Kirk Cameron.
I think she says more than one person.
Oh, okay. So Todd installs a cat door for Fillmore so he can come and go as he wants to.
And when Fillmore's talking about it, he says, I made Todd think it was his idea, but it was really my idea.
Right.
Like we said, Fillmore has some, like, psychic influence on people.
Yeah. And we go back and forth between, different points of view. Like Marjorie, we've got different chapters from different points of view. Oh, okay. Dawson was right. Clint Eastwood. She talks about Kirk Cameron at one point.
I think she mentions 3 different guys.
So then we've got a chapter where, and this kind of plays out more throughout the story. We've got a chapter where Todd has a nightmare, but he wakes up and Fillmore is sitting on him and he smiles at him.
What did you think about all the dreams?
I kind of took it as like unresolved trauma that he had.
I don't mean that specifically. I mean all the dreams throughout the book.
I think Fillmore had some influence on him.
I do too, but I think they were overused a little bit.
Oh, you think so?
Because I think, there's like 3 different instances in a 200-page book where you read a chapter and it's like, oh, that was a dream.
Yeah, probably. The one, though, we'll get to it, that one about made me cry.
Yeah.
When you found out it was a dream. But yeah, you're right. What was I saying? Oh, so Todd has a nightmare about his dad coming back to life, and when he wakes up, Fillmore's sitting on his chest, and the cat smiles at him.
Yeah.
And there's a couple different times throughout the book where people say he smiled, but nobody would believe them because he's a cat.
And I was just imagining the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
Whenever they said that. So he goes to Marjorie's house. Fillmore does. He breaks in through the window, or not breaks in because the window's open. He comes in through the window. She hears a thud. She goes to investigate it, slips on something, falls, breaks her hips, and cracks her head. And
I want to back up before we get into that. There's also there's a part where she confronts Todd about the cat.
She comes to his door.
And here she is, this Christian woman, and the whole neighborhood knows she's a Christian, but she spits on him.
Yeah. And then when she goes to leave, she says, God bless.
Right.
And one thing about that, too, when she goes up there and does it, she kind of, like, word vomits on him and, like, chews him out and then leaves without waiting for a response.
Right. And it was so funny to me because when she spits on him, he says he allowed Hawk to So there's, like, a pop culture reference in there that I thought was fun.
There's also one time where I think it's Henry thinks of the cat as chonky, thinks of Fillmore as being chonky, and that's kind of like an internet term.
Yeah. Okay, so back to what you were saying about he breaks into her house.
Yeah, he comes in through the window. She slips, falls, and it turns out what she slipped on was a puddle of cat pee. And so when she falls, she looks up, and I think Fillmore's on like the counter or something. Fillmore jumps down and puts his paws through her eyes, like kills her by putting pressure on her eyes and pushing his paws through them, and then he licks up part of the stuff that's left on his paws.
But he eats her, because this is when he leaves.
Yeah.
Because he's covered in blood and stuff, and he knows he can't, cat.
That's what I'm saying. He eats what's on his paws.
Right.
I don't think he eats anymore, does he?
I thought he did.
He might. I don't know.
I know he's covered in blood because he talks about.
I know. Because this is when he disappears right after this.
It says, as I devour pieces of this old miserable woman, I am reminded of my past.
I forgot. There's one part. There's the part where he's on the fence. I don't think he gets hit that time. I think she just throws something at him and misses. No, he does get hit that time.
He was after a rabbit in her yard.
Yeah, he chases a rabbit into her yard, and then she throws a slipper at him and misses. So they've had multiple run-ins.
Right. But he knows he can't go home.
Yes.
Because he's covered in blood, and he can't turn on the shower like a person could.
Yeah.
But he also steals her locket.
Yes. And we find out later he left it by Todd's door.
Right.
Todd picked it up, realized there was blood on its hands. He didn't know who it was from, though.
Right.
He did not know it was hers. But he just dropped it down the storm drain.
Yeah.
So Fillmore is covered in blood. He decides he can't go home because he's covered in blood. So he leaves and just lives as a stray for a while.
Right. And so this is where we get Henry comes back into play. This was such an odd scene to me. Like, the Fred Flintstone thing was just odd.
Henry's character, you could have wrote this book without Henry's character, if I'm being honest. I don't think he adds anything.
I mean, it was another death.
Yeah, really? But it wasn't necessary.
Well, I'm not saying it was. It was another death, I guess, that he caused. But, it was just a weird scene. I don't really want to go too much into it because it was kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But basically...
He humps a blow-up doll of Fred Flintstone.
Right, and he puts a marshmallow in his mouth.
Yeah.
And so Fillmore comes to kill him, and he chokes to death on the marshmallow. Yeah. I mean, it was just a weird thing. Is this where they talk about the gummies? Is he the one that takes the gummies?
No. That's the comic
author.
artist.
Okay. So then Todd is really upset that Fillmore's gone, and he... We may have jumped ahead. I don't know if he's dead yet. I don't think Henry died yet. But anyway, he's really...
I think he did.
He's really sad that Fillmore's gone, so he's putting up lost posters and still trying to find him months after he disappeared. And we find out that Todd and Abby are in a relationship now. They're actually in a pretty serious relationship. They've been together for a while.
Yeah, because it's been months since Fillmore disappeared.
Right.
So, is there anything important we need to say here before their bedroom fiasco?
Well, Stevie comes back, and he's the one that is our Charlie Brown.
Yeah, and he's talking about how he wants a dog.
Yes, but there's a killer that's been going around and killing golden doodles.
Killer.
So he's really afraid to be out in the neighborhood by himself. But his mom makes him deliver Christmas cookies to the new neighbor.
Regular cookies. This is just cookies. Christmas cookies is the second time, isn't it?
I don't know.
He brings them cookies twice. I think the first time is just cookies to welcome to the neighborhood. The second time is Christmas cookies.
But this guy, his name's Mike, he had moved into
Marjorie's house.
So anyway, he's delivering the cookies and thinking about the Golden Doodle killer.
Did you think... I don't know... They determined that Marjorie... What did they determine with her? What did the police determine? Because they mentioned something.
It says the rumor from some of the other kids was that she had an accident, died. Others said she had been killed. A cross-eyed schoolmate claimed she'd been sent to the witness protection program.
Okay. So, anyway. So, yeah.
So then we meet Mike. And Mike is the author that Stevie's delivering cookies to. And he left his family, his wife and his kids, and moved to this town by himself without telling anyone where he was going.
He's going to try to make it big as a newspaper comic strip artist.
Right, but he's really struggling to find his muse.
Yes.
Okay, so then we jump back to Todd and Abby, and Abby has got Todd out of his shell. He's making, I think he's making lasagna.
Yes.
Yeah, he's making lasagna. But it talks about how she's got him eating different
Spicy
foods
burritos
and
and
cooking, and
yeah,
and he even says like it's the pretty much the one thing they share, but they somehow
yeah.
they click. Um,
That and being fun together in the bedroom.
right.
Um,
So Todd's making dinner, setting the table. Abby comes in, asks if he wants an appetizer. So they go to the bedroom.
yes.
And they're getting it on. And all of a sudden, Abby gets thrown up on.
Yes. By Fillmore. He ate the entire pan of lasagna that they just made and throws up on Abby.
Yes. And I don't think it's here, but later on he talks about what he saw and how it was disgusting and that Todd was his and he shouldn't have to share him with
Yeah.
Abby. And
There's only one kind of... Do you want to say that? Do you know what I'm talking
only
about?
one kind of pussy
Yeah.
that he needed in his life.
So Abby goes to take a shower and is like absolutely disgusted. So and Fillmore looks emaciated, like he has not been eating well. You can see his bones. Todd swears he can see his heart beating and his lungs moving. So Abby goes to take a shower and Todd is going to take Fillmore to the vet.
So they go to the vet and Fillmore knows it's not a good idea. Like, they
Yeah.
could put him to sleep.
He doesn't want to get poked or prodded.
Right, and they could put him to sleep because of the way he looks. So they're in the waiting room and a sign lights up that says, "Someone is saying goodbye to their pet. Out of respect, please keep quiet." And so everybody's quiet. They put their phones down. They stop their conversations. And Fillmore puts a scene in Todd's head
Yes.
of his brother Scott pooing his pants at the zoo when they were younger, so he laughs out loud.
Yes. And so Todd gets embarrassed and runs out to his car.
Yeah, so he avoids the vet.
And decides to just take Fillmore home and feed him and see how well that goes. So is this when his brother dies?
So this is where Henry sees Todd and Fillmore outside because Todd is walking Fillmore, and he tells him that he's chunky. He says if he gets any bigger, you'll need a forklift to pick him up.
Yeah. And Todd has started walking Fillmore like a dog so that he'll get some muscle mass and not just be fat.
Right.
Which I wonder, do you think that was Fillmore influence? Or do you think that was his idea? Or do you think maybe it was like Abby's idea?
I'd probably go more for Abby.
That's what I was thinking. Because I think Fillmore just wants to be fat and lazy and lay around. I think Abby, we never see this, but I think Abby probably told Todd, hey, you should probably get him some exercise.
Yeah. I think so too. I think that it was probably Abby's idea because Fillmore doesn't really seem happy to be out there.
Yeah. Well, especially if he's on a leash.
Yeah. So then we have a chapter where we find out that Abby does not like Fillmore. He makes her uncomfortable. She doesn't want to be at Todd's house. But we are at Todd's house because they're having a game night. They invited Mike and the Felkner couple from down the street.
Who I don't think we really meet.
No.
So again, Mike is the comic artist.
Right. And so we're at the party, the game night, and Mike finally gets inspiration, and his inspiration is Fillmore. He's going to write a comic about a fat, orange, lasagna-loving cat.
Yep.
What does that sound like?
And he took... I mean, I don't think this is super important, but this is when he took the weed gummy.
Is it?
This is whenever he mentions he took one the first time. I don't know if he mentions what the bottle looks like at this point.
He doesn't.
Okay.
So that now is the part where Henry dies. So Henry offended Fillmore by telling him he needed a forklift. If he got any fatter, he was going to need a forklift to move him. So this we kind of already went through this scene. I'm not going to go through it again.
Yeah.
But he chokes on a marshmallow because Fillmore scares him.
And then Fillmore pulls his pants and underwear down, so
it'll be embarrassing.
Yeah.
Um,
Does he eat part of him? I don't think it describes it here, but I think later he mentions that he may have.
Nope. Nope, he didn't eat any of them.
Okay.
But he does. Fillmore's disappointed because it was easy to kill him, but it wasn't fun.
Yeah,
Like,
he wanted
choked
to
him
like
up
slap.
with
He wanted to like
marshmallow.
slash him with his claws.
Yeah. He wanted to sneak up on him, but he choked on the marshmallow and died. Which was kind of an odd thing. But I don't know if that had to do, because they talk a lot about how his parents died in a fire when he was just
I think it's a suffocation thing.
That's what I was going to say, and I
like
don't know.
fire smoke gets
Right.
him off. So putting a marshmallow in his mouth blocks airflow.
And I want to know what Mr. McDonald has against Fred Flintstone. 'Cause not only is he the blow-up, but he's also the rep for the gummies.
Maybe it's just what he grew up with, and he likes the Flintstones.
So then we get to the chapter where his mom calls, and I don't know why this is funny to me. It should not be funny, but she tells him that his brother died because a Christmas tree fell on him.
Yeah.
And that is just like the most random death I think I've ever read in a book.
Do you think it's a reference to something?
I don't know.
I almost feel like it has to be a reference to something, but if it is, I don't know what.
I don't either. I don't know, but it's just, she calls and she's like, "Hi, Toddy, how are you?" And he's like, "Hi, Mom." And she's like, "You gotta come home. A Christmas tree fell on your brother."
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It was just such an odd way to die. But I'm sure it can happen.
Yeah. So he leaves to go home to go to the funeral, and he leaves Fillmore with Abby. And Abby doesn't want to stay with Fillmore. She doesn't like Fillmore, but she's not going to tell her boyfriend, "Hey, I don't want to stay with you. I mean, I don't want to stay with your cat, even though your brother's dead. I'm making it about me."
Right.
So she agrees to do it.
And I thought this part was kind of awful. "A dead brother, big fat hairy deal. My mother ate all my litter mates except for me at birth. I can recall every wet crunch, every screaming mew as she gobbled them up. I recall the fear of wondering when it was my turn."
So obviously Fillmore is thinking that.
Yes. And this is also a chapter where Fillmore is not happy that Abby is staying either.
Yeah. He doesn't like
He
Abby.
calls her a homewrecker. That he knows that she'll eventually move in and they'll get married and have kids, and he'll become an afterthought for Todd, and he does not want that because he's got it pretty good.
So he goes home to go to the funeral.
And this is actually the first time Abby says, "I love you."
Right before he leaves.
Right.
Yeah. And he says it back. And it's not, she doesn't do it intentionally, it slips out, is what she says.
Yeah.
She doesn't think about the words she's saying, she just says them, but she means it, she believes it. So that happens, and then he leaves, he gets on a plane to go there. And on the plane, he's sitting next to an old woman. And the old woman keeps saying stuff like, "Why'd you leave Fillmore with Abby? And you know what's going to happen." And then he sees she's reading a magazine that's something witch.
Yeah.
Witchy something.
Which monthly or weekly or something, I think.
Do you think
he keeps looking at her, and she's like, "No, you heard me right."
Yeah. Do you think that actually happened, or do you think he was imagining that?
I don't know.
My thing is, if there's supernatural things like Fillmore in this world, why wouldn't there be a witch?
That's kind of how I took it. Like,
Yeah.
I thought there probably is. I mean, I took it as she was a witch.
Yeah. But there's also the part at the funeral.
But Fillmore says he did that.
I know.
But so I don't think he would put ideas in his head that he was bad. Like,
Then why would he poop on Fillmore? I mean, why would Fillmore poop on Todd?
Well, I mean, the witch, I don't think he would put those ideas in it.
I know, but then he's pooping on him at the funeral.
I don't know. There were some odd scenes in this book.
Okay, so anyway, the witch thing happens on the plane. And then, first thing he does when he lands is he calls to make sure Abby is okay. And Abby is okay, and she thinks about how sweet it is that his first thought was to check on her. And then Is this when she dies?
Well, we have a chapter with Stevie
Okay.
where Stevie takes cookies to Mike for the second time, and he shows Mike shows Stevie his drawings.
And Stevie's not impressed.
Right.
He doesn't think the character's endearing.
And here's where Mike talks about
Is this whenever the gummies?
yes.
So do you want to talk about that? Because I haven't read gummies.
So
Brian Keith McDonald wrote another book
called Gummies, and it was actually before Mondays. And the gummies that the people take in Gummies are the same gummies that that Mike takes in A Hatred of Mondays. And they talk about the bottle is the mascot is Fred Flintstone, but he's got bloodshot eyes, and instead of triangles, his outfit has pot leaves on it.
His tie's a different color.
Yeah, it's green instead of blue.
Like a neon glowing green.
Yeah. Which I thought was kind of cool because he's kind of world building
Yeah.
to bring all of this into the same world, which is.
And doesn't he
cool.
mention a character? The gas station guy that sells them the gummies? Is that what you told me?
Yes, but remember how well, we'll get there
Okay.
because that's later on.
Okay. So when do we find out the whole thing with him and Stevie's mom?
Not yet. It's
Okay.
later on.
Okay.
Because it's
Well, we'll get there.
yeah.
So what happens here?
He shows him the comic and they don't.
I know what happens next. We
Um,
talked about that. What happens next? So next we're at the funeral, and
Todd has been asked to do the eulogy for him.
and he also picked out the clothes for his brother that he's wearing in the casket. And something I noticed was, and I don't think we mentioned it earlier with the father thing, that his father's knocking at the door, raised from the dead. His father was abusive. He abused his mom. He abused, all of them.
Right.
But he picked out the clothes for his dad's funeral too. And he, even though he didn't like his dad, he still thought he should look his best in death and put a good suit on him. And then whenever he mentions he picked out clothes for Scott, he picked out the best clothes he could find in the closet for Scott. But it's like a short sleeve, button up, and a tie.
Yeah. So he starts to give the eulogy, and then this is where Dawson was talking about the pooping.
That sounds like a parody horror movie from a show like iCarly or something. The poopening.
Oh my gosh. So he sees the church pews and the people all disappear, and then it's long litter boxes, and each one has a Fillmore in there.
And they all turn around and start diarrheaing on him.
Yeah. And he tells him, he's like, "Come home, Todd, I miss you." And so Todd runs out of the funeral.
Yeah, and goes straight home. So we go back to Abby's point of view, and she has to do laundry, and the washer and dryer are in the basement. And this reminded me of Home Alone.
Yeah.
And she's not a huge fan of basements, so she goes down there to do the laundry, and then when she leaves the door open, and when she's coming back up, she trips on something on the stairs, something that's furry, and she falls backwards down the stairs. And Fillmore was laying on the step, and she stepped on him and fell back down the stairs. And then the door slammed shut. So Fillmore is now, in quotes, trapped in the basement with Abby, because he closed the door on purpose.
Yeah. And then we have our favorite chapter of all. Chapter 52. Oops.
Yep. I'm assuming it's from Fillmore's point of view.
Yeah.
And all it says is oops.
Yeah.
One word.
So then we have a scene. This is the one I said earlier about made me cry, where Abby is in a wheelchair, but she's okay. They're on their honeymoon. Everything's going really well.
She's a famous author now.
Yeah, so Todd's been able to quit his job, and she's a famous author, and they just spend all this time together. And then you realize it's a dream because Todd wakes up crying.
Yeah. And Fillmore says he gave Todd that dream.
And it's so sad because I liked Abby and Todd together.
Yeah.
And
then we find out what actually happened when he came home, right?
Yes.
So when he came home, he immediately ran through the house trying to find her because he knew something was wrong. And he got to the basement door. It was shut. He opened it, and he saw her body laying at the bottom of the stairs, partially eaten. I think Fillmore says part of her thigh and face were missing.
Mm-hmm.
And Fillmore was trapped in the basement with her and ate her.
And so there's a part where Todd is talking about like he doesn't really know what to do with her. And there's a reference to the guy who covered his girlfriend in honey after she died, hoping to preserve her body.
Yeah.
That is the guy in Gummies who sells them the gummies at the gas station.
I need to read Gummies.
He has a hat on that says, "Ask me about my funny honey."
Mm.
And it goes back to his house, and she's in the garage covered in honey.
Yeah. And he says he says that guy's insane. I don't want to be insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
In this book.
Yeah. So, yes, you should read Gummies. It was a good one, too. So then we find out that Stevie's mom, Jessica, is sleeping with author Mike.
Yeah.
And we find out that Mike has a dog named Breakfast that he adopted because he was lonely.
Yes.
She's a Chihuahua.
And Stevie's mom points out that her stomach looks bloated.
Right.
And he just calls her a little piggy. Says she ate too much.
Yeah. And she's a good dog. I mean, he spoils her, and she's a good
And she's
dog.
a Chihuahua. Did we say that?
One thing we didn't mention earlier was there's a scene where Todd is in the grocery store. It's actually when he buys the salted rice cakes to be, adventurous. And the lady in front of him, her EBT card, food stamp card, won't work, so he pays for her groceries. So then now he goes back to the store
to get stuff for Fillmore specifically.
He sees a guy outside playing is it a violin, I think?
It's some kind of instrument.
But he's playing one of Abby's favorite songs. So he gives the guy $20. Well, when the guy stops to say thank you, he realizes the music keeps playing.
Yeah, there was a speaker there.
And so Todd's having all these thoughts about running him over with a shopping cart and just, not being a good person.
So then he gets his groceries, and when he's at the checkout, there's someone in front of him, and their EBT card gets rejected. And instead of helping like he did last time, he just thinks, oh, this person's trying to mooch, and then asks if they can hurry up because he needs to get home.
Yeah.
And so you can tell Fillmore is messing with his mind, and on top of that, Abby's death has also messed him up.
Right. And so Fillmore says it was an accident, that he didn't mean to trip Abby, that he didn't mean for her to fall. So then Todd is having these thoughts on his way home from the store, like, I'm glad to be home, I'm glad to see Fillmore.
Yeah.
Like, he can't
think negatively or he'll be punished.
Right. And we're talking pretty severe punishments, but
yeah.
we'll get to that in just a second. But
when he says later, whenever he gets the paperclip and he says, do you think it's time to clean your fingernails? Do you think he pried his fingernails off with the...
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I do. But then we have, like, back and forth, like, basically a conversation in Todd's head between him and Fillmore.
Yeah.
So Fillmore is really in his head now.
And is this when Fillmore starts to look more like a person?
Yeah.
He looks like an anthropomorphized cat. He's got long eyes. Like, he looks like Garfield, like the cartoon character Garfield.
Yeah, and he's got opposable thumbs.
Yeah.
Which he mentioned earlier that he couldn't do something because he didn't have opposable thumbs.
Yeah.
The shower. He couldn't turn the shower on.
Do you know what this reminds me of?
What's that?
Have you looked over the years through Garfield how he's changed?
Uh-uh.
When his original design, he just looks like a cat, and he got more and more cartoonish as time went on. So I think this is a reference to that.
So there's all kinds of punishments throughout the story. Like Dawson mentioned the nail thing.
Yeah. I think that happens at this point, doesn't it?
Todd has the thought, because Fillmore's like, throw me some cheese, please. And Todd's like, well, at least he said please. Well, he's being sarcastic, and so he makes him get a paper clip out. He has his junk drawer.
Yeah.
And
it's got
tells
like a
him,
screwdriver and some different things in there.
Tells him to go pick what he wants, and so he picks the paper clip. And Fillmore tells him to clean out from under his fingernails.
Yeah.
But then there's another part later on where he cuts off his pinky.
Yeah, and we see the aftermath of that, and he's like, well, at least it was just a pinky. I don't need that. I don't use it. And then later, we flash forward again in the book, and he's missing an ear and all of the fingers on one hand except one finger.
Right.
So Fillmore is just chipping away at him.
Right. It's as punishment if he doesn't do what he wants.
Do you think Fillmore was eating the parts of him that he was cutting off?
I don't know. Maybe.
I imagine he
Putting him in
was.
lasagna.
Well.
So Fillmore's just not a good cat. Not a good pet. And Abby is still in the basement.
Yeah, her body is.
Yeah.
Growing more and more gross.
Yeah.
And his mom, Todd's mom, is growing worried.
Yes.
About him.
Yes. But then we flip back to Mike, who is at the vet with Breakfast.
Yes.
And he finds out that Breakfast is going to be a mama.
Yeah.
And so then we're back to Todd, and Todd is back to plain tuna sandwiches, ham and cheese, like he's back to being Todd we had at the beginning of the book, where he's not got any friends, he's antisocial, he doesn't...
Is he?
Yeah.
I thought at this point he's, like, barely eating.
He's eating a tuna sandwich at the break room.
Okay. Yeah.
He
no, he's still at work. Yeah,
fired.
He's still at work at this point. When he gets fired is when he makes him cut off his pinky.
Yeah.
So he's still working at the moment.
Yeah, but this is actually when he gets fired because he freaks out on the vending machine.
Yeah, he goes over to the vending machine to get a honey bun to remind him of Abby. Even though he doesn't like him, it reminds him of Abby. So he goes to get one, and it jams again like it did before where it doesn't give it to him. So he starts freaking out, grabs a trash can, and almost smashes the vending machine before he gets yelled at by his boss. Or not yelled at, but talked down by his boss. So he gets fired. So when he gets home, Fillmore makes him get rid of his pinky.
Right, and so... kind of back on what we were talking about with his changes, it says that there's not a creature on earth more beautiful than I am. I'm no longer an ordinary house cat. I've become something else. The more I kill, the more I consume of human flesh, the more I goof around with Todd's mind, the stronger I get.
Yeah.
And it says he murdered Catherine.
Oh, and there is a point earlier in the book where Fillmore is having a dream about being a human and how he would be able to kill people left and right with all kinds of weapons and...
Yeah. But he says he married he murdered Catherine, Marjorie, Henry, Abby, a hobo, an old man tending his garden, a wheelchair-bound young woman, a father of two, and a guy with a nose ring and neon blonde hair.
Yeah. So he's been going out the cat door and just killing people he can find.
Yeah.
And so now, since Todd was fired...
here's part of that. Here's part of your answer. He throws his pinky in the trash.
Okay. Now, since Todd is fired, his entire life revolves around making lasagnas for... Fillmore, because Fillmore eats 4 lasagnas a day, which is another direct Garfield reference.
And it has to be homemade from scratch noodles.
Yes.
Everything has to be homemade.
Yeah. No prepackaged noodles, no prepackaged sauce. Everything's made from scratch.
Right. And so this is when we meet Carl.
Yes.
Who is a reference to...
Dennis the Menace.
Dennis the Menace. He's got his slingshot, and he's just kind of being a punk and, shooting animals with his slingshot. And I thought it was funny because he talks about his neighbor, Mr. Mathau, who in the comic strip is Mr. Wilson, but in the movie, Dennis the Menace, Mr. Wilson was played by Walter Matthau.
I wanted to mention, too, earlier, whenever Mike is walking by the cat's house, or walking by Todd's house, he sees Fillmore in the window, and he has an imaginary conversation in his head with Fillmore and says he sounds like Bill Murray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never even thought about that.
He's not actually having a conversation with Fillmore. He's high and imagining what that conversation would be, because Fillmore's like nice to him in it. And then we see Fillmore's point of view from that same interaction, and he had the same thought of, oh, what if I could have a conversation with him? But it's a completely different conversation where he's like, what are you looking at? Take a picture, it'll last longer. That kind of stuff.
Yeah. So Carl sneaks out of his house at night, and he's messing around with his slingshot, and he shoots Fillmore.
Yes, because he always crouches in the bushes to hide his neighbor. And he sees someone crouching in the bushes, so he thinks maybe it's the neighbor trying to get back at him. So he shoots the slingshot at whatever shape is in the bushes before it can get to him. And then we find out it was Fillmore, and he shot his eye out.
Right. And he even has the thought he's like a cartoon come to life.
Yes.
Um.
So Fillmore kills him.
Yep.
When do we get all the little hints about Stevie riding the lawnmower? Because that's been happening throughout.
Well, earlier was when he said he wasn't supposed to.
Yeah.
His dad didn't want him riding the lawnmower.
So then he had walked in on Mike and his mom together, and is now able to get away with things when his dad's not home because he has a dirt on his mom, basically.
Right.
So he's been riding the lawnmower around the neighborhood.
Right. And so then we switch to Todd's mom, and she's really worried about Todd because he's not answering his phone. She hasn't heard from him. Her husband's passed away. Scott's passed away.
Yeah.
So he's really the only one.
Her only son.
Right, her only one she has left. So she calls Todd to check on him, and he answers the phone, and he just says, "Mom, I love you," and the line goes dead.
Yeah. And then Fillmore punishes him, doesn't he?
Yes.
Or is Fillmore asleep?
No, he punishes him because he wasn't supposed to talk to anybody.
Okay. Because there's one part where he does something he's not supposed to, but Fillmore's asleep, so he gets away with it.
Maybe it is here.
I think it is.
Yeah, it is. You're
Yeah.
right.
So Fillmore's asleep, so even though he broke the rules, talked to someone, answered the phone, and said "I love you" to his mom, Fillmore doesn't do anything because Fillmore's asleep.
Right.
And Todd hasn't been sleeping. He's been staying up all the time making lasagnas for Fillmore.
Right. That's all he does.
Yeah.
Because, like we mentioned, it's from scratch, and from scratch noodles take some time to make.
And Fillmore only lets him eat like every once in a while, like once every several days, I think is what he says.
Yeah. And it's not like the one meal they mention is carrots. He's eating carrot sticks, but his teeth.
And
are
I think it's
falling
just
out.
one carrot.
Yeah, and his teeth are falling out because his nutrition's sucks.
So this guy does not have a good time.
Yeah. So then we're back to Lorraine, which is Todd's mom, and she has come to town to visit Todd.
Yes, and she talks about how dirty this town is and how she wishes he didn't live here. So she comes to his house, and she knocks on the door. There's no answer, so she goes ahead and comes in. And Todd is laying in a chair, and he's been kind of drifting off. He's like partially asleep. And so whenever he heard the knocking, he thought he was imagining it because he also was seeing a spider on the ceiling grow a human head and then multiply and like different things. So he is hallucinating somewhat, but he's not hallucinating his mom. She's actually there. So she comes in and wakes him up. And right when he wakes up, his mom's head explodes.
Right.
And then we get a chapter from Fillmore's point of view where he heard the knocking, knew she was going to come in, hid, and then whenever she came in there, he blew up her head.
By his power. I mean, like,
just
he didn't
mentally.
do anything,
Yeah.
just mentally.
He imagined being in the middle of her brain and expanding outward, and her head exploded.
And
you know what it reminds me of?
What?
You know that movie Rubber with the tire?
Yes.
It makes me think of that. If you guys have seen that movie where the tire can just like blow things up with his head.
Because the tire has a head.
Well, yeah. I mean, if he concentrates on something, it blows up.
So, Fillmore killing Todd's mom is kind of the last straw. He says, he's broken, I've done it, I've used him up, there's nothing left.
Yeah. And so, Todd grows angry, grabs Fillmore, and throws him out a window. Right?
But, so, Stevie's mom had came clean and told Stevie's dad that she was sleeping with Mike.
Yes.
And so Dad had left, and so Stevie was kind of free to do what he wanted.
Yeah.
So he had taken the lawnmower to the library in town to figure out how to fix it, and he had gotten it fixed. So he's cruising the neighborhood on his mower.
Yes. And he's driving past Todd's window when the cat comes flying out, and there's no time to react or anything. The cat goes straight under the lawnmower.
Right. And so then it's a week later, and Todd's eating again. He's starting to feel better.
Yeah.
And
then
he mentions that he was afraid that he would come back
Yeah.
Like the body would just kind of come back together, but
Yeah.
it didn't.
So then we find out that the lasagna he's eating has people in it. He chopped up his mom and Abby and
Right.
put them through a grinder.
He pulls a toenail out,
Yeah.
and it's
And
painted black.
Does he like add it to the pile or something?
Yeah, next to his mom's rings.
Yeah.
So he said next time he'll mince the meat finer, a cleaner blend of mother and lover, no choking hazards.
Yeah. So he is completely destroyed at this point. Like he's mentally destroyed.
Yeah. And so then we go to Fillmore, who is in hell, and it's the vision of hell that Marjorie talked about earlier with,
Yes.
on spikes, and there's spiders and
with Breakfast being pregnant, multiple times Mike had mentioned giving one of the puppies to Stevie since Stevie wanted a dog.
Yes. So then we end with him being born as one of Stevie's puppies.
Yes.
Or, I'm sorry, one of Breakfast's puppies.
Yes.
And it's the puppy that Stevie picks out.
And Fillmore, reborn Fillmore thinks, I found my loser.
Yes. But you know what bugs me? Because he's Charlie Brown, it should have been a beagle.
But we never find out who the dad is. We just hear that Breakfast got knocked up by a dog, and then we never find out who the dad is, so it could be a half-breed. It could be a beagle Chihuahua mix.
That's true.
Something like that.
So that's A Hatred of Mondays.
Yeah.
Good book. I enjoyed it.
I think I aired all my issues with it out there. But, I mean, I had minor issues with it. I've really enjoyed this book. I definitely want to read more from this author. And like we said, this is the second book. So for this to be a second book and be so good is amazing. So are you getting your interview pulled up?
So I had reached out to Brian and asked him if he had any insight into how he writes and, anything he wanted to share with us. There are certain indie horror authors that I feel like are underrated and need to have their name out there more. And I think he's one of them. Just from reading his 2 books, he's very quickly become a favorite. Horror, we've talked about this before, horror is subjective, and I feel that way with books too. Like, yes, this is horror, but this is funny.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to call it...
There's horrific moments, but it's...
Right. I don't want to call it lighthearted for horror, but it's very... I don't know, it's nostalgic, and it's...
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just a fun horror book.
It's, like, very on the nose in a good way.
Yes.
Like, it knows what it is.
Right. So Brian told me he graduated from Southeast Missouri State 15 years ago with a minor in creative writing, and he just never did anything with it. 2 years ago, he was laid off from his job, and he started writing because he had the extra time. He wanted to challenge himself and write and publish a novel. He collects paperback horror novels, and the cover of Gummies, which is the other book we talked about, came to him before the story did. Once he had it published, he wanted to write another. He started writing and gave up on 3 other novels before he came up with A Hatred of Mondays. I felt like I wasn't going to write again, then I read a novel called Hellhound, which Dawson and I are going to have to look into that one because I want to read it. It's about a psychotic dog. Some chapters were told through the dog's point of view, so writing a parody featuring a Garfield-like cat felt perfect.
So I want to know if there's any references to Hellhound in this book that we missed.
We're going to have to dig into that.
Or if you know, let us know in the comments.
Right, let us know in the comments. If we find any, we will update the comments or the description and let you guys know.
And comment.
But he says he started and given up 2 novels since he finished A Hatred of Mondays, and he hopes he can eventually find the inspiration for a 3rd novel. And I agree. I would love to see, like I said, there's references between the 2 books, and I think he's building a world that we could all really get into.
And I think he should write a sequel to this book at some point, and I think if he does, he should include a parody of Calvin and Hobbes. Because Calvin and Hobbes is my favorite newspaper comic
That's
of all
awesome.
time.
Well, I hope he listens to it and takes your advice.
It'd be great if he did, but he doesn't have to. He can write whatever he wants.
Right. Yeah. Well...
If this is where he leaves it, this is a perfect ending. If he wants to continue the story, though, I'll be happy to pick it up.
Me too. And I think it could have a sequel. I think it could be a fun sequel to do. And I am 100% sure there are references in there that we didn't catch. I've actually read it twice now. You've read it once.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some we missed in there, but
and maybe because we said that Henry's character doesn't do a whole lot in this book, maybe Henry's a reference to a comic character that we're not getting.
Right.
Like that could be on us.
Right. Yeah. So it's just a fun read. Check him out. Both of his books are fun. They're quick reads. I think I told you Gummies is right at 200 pages.
Yeah.
And A Hatred is less than 200. So they're quick reads.
I read it in an hour and a half.
And it's not. I'm not insulting the book at all by saying this, but it's not a horror book that you have to really think about. Like, it's just a fun one.
Yeah. I've got a quote from the book I'm going to put at the end of this video.
And I love.
Sums that up.
I don't know. I don't want to say. I don't know how to explain it. Like, I read all kinds of horror.
This is a good palate cleanser horror.
There you go. That's the best way to say it. Like, it's a fun one.
Like, if you read something really heavy, this is a good, like, palate cleanser just so that you can get into another heavy book after you read it. Like,
yeah. So we really appreciate you listening in. We're going to do books once a month.
Yes.
We're gonna start mixing in some comic books and some graphic novels as well with our movies.
We're gonna look into doing games, whether that be board games. We talked about doing tabletop role-playing games, like just reviewing them, not necessarily doing the full thing on the podcast.
Right.
And we talked about maybe even doing some board games.
Video games.
Board games too.
Well, you said board games.
Did I?
Video games too.
Yeah.
So our next movie that we will be doing next week is the black and white, I want to say 1957 movie Homicidal.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what year.
But our book for the next month is called Jurassic Dead by David Sackmeister and Rick Chesler. Check it out before we do our podcast, but we appreciate you tuning in, and let us know in the comments if you have any feedback.
And just have a great day.